quick question again about the difference between the safety department and the training department. I'm hearing that the training department, at least at this point in time, has a lot of expertise and the ability to really help move the safety initiative along. Do you see it as a cultural thing in TriMet, or once those folks leave or retire, we have a potential issue, or there's a potential to transition to the safety department, or is that cultural, or is it just these particular individuals that are in that department?
Well, I have to say it's very unique to TriMet. So with that, I would have to almost say that it's got to be a cultural application somewhere through the evolution of this organization. The training department evolved to have a very strong safety application. And I can also say that there is a relationship to that, probably because of the way the training department is configured. A number of training departments throughout the United States are really owned, operated, and managed by operations. And operations is focused on operations. The time taken out of the training to do safety stuff doesn't necessarily benefit operations. So though we've got a very strong operations element here, you also have an individual in charge of the operations side of the house that has a very strong safety commitment also. And I think you see that in that output through the training department. However, the expertise in the training department has been around for a number of years. The loss of any of those individuals, I think, could certainly pose a dramatic impact to the agency, because they are an augmentation of your safety department, I feel.
I had a follow-up question to that, sorry. So when you talk about what would be the typical organizational size and structure of a safety department and your recommendation, what would those folks be doing? So what type of people would you be hiring? What's that organizational structure? And would, typically those folks be trainers? And, do we have that many folks focused on safety, and they're just in different departments? So talk a little bit about what you've seen industry-wide of what a safety department constitutes.
Yes, ma'am. A very, very great, good question. And I guess the best way I could answer would be to, if I could just analyze on Washington Metro. For years, Washington Metro had been considered probably, from the system safety or safety application side of the house, probably the premier transit agency in the country in relationship to its safety configuration. A staff of some 63 individuals with certified safety professionals, industrial hygienists, engineers on staff, carrying a multitude of licenses, and being involved in the intimate day-to-day operations of the transit agency. They sat in the control center, listening to what was going on in the control center, being right there when an event occurred. They were interfaced with the operations meetings on a weekly basis. Procurement could not purchase hazardous materials without the safety department signing off on those purchase requests. They were woven into the fabric of the transit agency. But then those individuals graduated or matriculated to other agencies, and they were replaced with individuals who did not carry those same skill sets. So there was a lessening of their capability. In having a lesser capability, there was a lesser need to have these individuals working in these other departments because they were perceived as impediments and not assets to the department. Eventually, when management woke up, they realized that the safety department had been disenfranchised, but because of their own lack of subject matter expertise, they really, gave the agency, no other choice but to really isolate them. Then we had a series of wayside worker fatalities. In between that, the board of directors, as well as the chief executive officer, continued to marginalize safety, stopped having safety committee meetings at the highest levels within the organization, buried the safety department several tiers down within the organization, sending a clear message to the agency that safety was not a critical function within the organization. And it culminated to date with the Fort Totten train-on-train collision of roughly a year and 2 months ago. Since that time, the agency has tried very diligently to try to make up lost ground. Unfortunately, the length of time it takes to get back to where you were is many times greater than the handful of months it took to slide down that slope. So looking at TriMet with that same level of focus, TriMet's not nearly in that position. The amount of time that I've been able to spend with your executive staff, there is a wholehearted commitment to safety. However, that commitment has to translate to enforcement to the safety department, to the training department, to allow them to be able to mature these programs that they want to mature, to add that additional training, to new employee training, give them that first bit of training on safety before they ever sit behind the wheel of a bus. I know the trainers emphasize that here. So a lot of the core building blocks for system safety exist within this organization, not nearly like they've been dismantled at Washington, D.C.
So if I can pick up, just summarize some of your lessons learned from that experience is about, not only having the right number of folks and the right depth of technical expertise in the safety department, but to make sure that they're fully integrated within the other aspects of operations and they're not seen as sort of an ivory tower or like the cops of the system or the process in that way.
Safety department should be viewed as your agency's safety consultants. They should be there to answer the phone, to address the needs of any of the receiving departments. They are your consultant. I need help, and they should be there to provide it, and they should be staffed accordingly to provide the help that might be requested of them. And I would also give you one point of caution. Recruitment from within. There are benefits and fruit that can be born from recruiting from within, but not every mechanic or every bus operator or every rail operator makes a good safety officer. I've seen that devastate other transit agencies because you can't be the breaker of safety rules on the Friday and then be hired Monday as the enforcer of safety rules.
Shirley?
I have a question. On bus safety, you said you rode a number of routes, and as far as to bus stops, on my particular route, on all of our routes, when a driver discovers a problem, a yellow card is written up on that situation. But drivers get frustrated because they aren't gotten back to in a timely manner, and that problem continues to exist. I'll just state, for instance, I drive a 70. Going down 13 at Spokane, where the city has put in an island, there's a tavern to the right. They have put in new bike where the bikes can go through, cars can't.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, they have a little sign up by the tavern where no parking, where cars park there just about every other evening. The bus cannot get by.
Yes, ma'am.
Here's this item that has been written up quite some time ago, and nothing has been done. You either sit there, blow your horn, and hope somebody come out and move their car, or you get on your call dispatch while people behind you are honking. And those yellow cards, what drivers run into when a problem exists, needs to be answered in a timely manner to rectify that situation, because it creates other problems. Also, bus stops, where the city has grown so, but where the bus used to be able to pull into a stop and pick up their passengers, especially people in scooters and wheelchairs and people with special needs, to get to that curb. The city have pushed 15-minute bus stops, parking spaces, where we can no longer get up to the curb, where they have to come out, and if there's a left-hand lane and people are getting off the bus going across, that creates other hazards. We're trying to load that person in a wheelchair while cars on the left are going around, want to make a right-hand turn. They're almost running over pedestrians. So as I say, when those are written up, we need answers.
Yes, ma'am. And I'd like to say that without the level of detail that you provided, we addressed the yellow card program, and in our report felt that the intent behind the program shows a wonderful amount of merit. However, we did garner the fact that when talking to operators about the yellow card program, that there was a disjoint between generating such a card, identifying a hazard, and actually seeing a resolution to that hazard. There is a disjoint, and I believe I used the word disjoint in our report, that you've got this program, which is a good program because it empowers you to identify those defects in operation, but yet it's only as good as the ability to be able to provide a resolution. However, I will say being out in the line with trainers and talking about this program, trainers are just as concerned because there's limitations of city code and city ordinance and city enforcement too. So there is a melding of both, but I do understand the difficulty, and that's where more interface with the city in trying to identify those folks that are parking where they shouldn't be parking, and maybe working more diligently to try to solve that problem. But we did capture that in the report, and we do understand that that's a problem.